Hey guys, Dane Verway here again, and today I wanted to go over 3 case studies that really exemplify the thought process that I go through when I'm trying to work out whether someone's ready to keep running or not, or whether they need a rest, or even just modify their training a little bit. And I'm going to start off with a girl I saw last week, a young 10-year-old girl. And I think this is a great case study where it showed that we took a calculated risk and we kept running, because I determined her pain was, yeah, she strained her ankle, but it was just a minor strain, and she was still able to. She performed quite well on testing. I thought the risk was marginal. She was 10. She's going to heal well. The investment of training and the size of the goal was huge for her. So I thought she'd still run well and she'd still have a good result even if she ran. And so we decided to run. So and I actually found out yesterday that she performed quite well. So it's a good story. I didn't know that she would, but I thought I did a calculated guess and thought she would still perform well last week when I saw her. So to take you through the story, she rolled her ankle in PE class doing long jump on the Tuesday. When she rolled it, it hurt quite a bit, but she was still able to keep going with sport. So straight away, alarm bells were going through my head saying, oh, that sounds like maybe just a minor strain, because she was able to keep going. I saw her the next day and it was very swollen, and her 2 parents were there and they were quite worried, and everyone was a bit stressed. It's quite possible that she wasn't going to run the next day, they thought. Anyway, I looked at it and then I was like, okay, we've got to really work out how bad this is. So I got her doing all the tests that I showed on the last video. So standing on one leg, she was fine. Then I got her jumping and that was fine. Like, she looked really good. She looked at ease. And then just hopping on the spot, she had a powerful hop and an elastic hop. It looked fine. She wasn't inhibited in any way. She wasn't limping. Then I got her just jogging on the spot. That was fine. I got her bounding down the hall, and that was fine. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, nah, this isn't that bad. Running's a straight line sport. If I tape her foot, because Bandura is quite muddy and there's rabbit holes everywhere, and she was planning to wear those waffle spikes, if I tape her foot and get her to wear her Nike Pegasus runners that are a bit more stable, she's going to be quite confident out there. I got her running for 3 minutes up and down the hall, and her pain was just a 1 or a 2 out of 10. So for the task that she was training for and planning to do, it was quite a good pain. Yeah, now if she did basketball tomorrow, she wouldn't be able to do it. It was a bad pain. But in terms of like working out the goal, that's why the goal is quite important. The goal of what she wanted to complete, it was a low-risk task, especially with a few of the parameters we put in place. So with the shoes, with the taping, so I then had to go through, okay, what are the risks? And I told them that, yeah, it might add on a week to the injury, but if you make sure that she has a really down week where she rests and just recovers after it, she's going to go well. And then we sort of looked into the future, and the girl was like, oh, I've got another big race in 5 weeks I want to be right for. And I was like, nah, this injury, you're 10, you heal fast. Yeah, you add a week onto the injury. If you have an easy week next week, and then you just have a couple of light weeks getting back into it, and then you do 2 full weeks of training, yeah, you're going to be fine for that race as well. So we looked into the risks. We accounted for how big this goal was. She'd come 4th at the state championships the year before, but this year she'd actually trained properly for it twice a week for the whole year with a run coach. It meant a lot for her. If she went well here, she would go to nationals. And last week she came 2nd by next to nothing to the national champion of last year. So she was a real shot. So I was all on board, and I thought it was a calculated risk, and sure enough, she came 2nd. I just found out yesterday, so that was a great result. So that's that case study where we kept running, and we still went for the goal, even though there was an injury, and we just went over the risks involved, and we thought they were worth it. and the benefit sure outweighed it. So the next case study was a lady that I saw about 6 months ago, and she first saw me with 6 months of Achilles tendon pain, and she was able to get through long runs okay, tempos okay, where she was just doing sort of half marathon 10k pace. She would just have that 1 or 2 stiffness in the morning with that kind of running. But when it came to hill sessions or speed work, she was really unable to walk properly for 3 days, and she was limping after these sessions. So that was bad pain. So straight away in my head, I'm like, okay, well, you're managing well with the long runs and the tempos. That's sort of a good pain. Whereas those hill sessions and the speed workouts, they seem like they're too much for the Achilles at this time. So what we did was like, okay, for 3 weeks, let's just do the long runs and the tempos and just scrap the hill work and the speed work. And meanwhile, let's work on the strength of your Achilles tendon. So I set a strength program for Achilles so that we improve the tissue tolerance of her Achilles, the robustness. Meanwhile, she's not stirring it up each week with the hills and the speed work. I saw her again in 3 weeks, and she was going really well. She was managing fine, and she'd ticked off. She'd been compliant with the exercises. Then we said, okay, let's add in a modified version, so let's down-regulate the load and down-regulate some of the parameters of the speed session. So rather than doing 8 400s flat out like you have been, let's run with a person slower than you normally beat, and let's do 2/3 to 3/4 of the amount of reps that you normally do. So let's just do 5 or 6 reps. We did that each week for 3 weeks. I saw her in 3 weeks' time, and she was fine. She had good pain after those sessions, and we also made sure she was just in trainers, which she was the whole way through. So she was just in sort of a heavy trainer for that session. Sometimes one of the reasons why people get a bit sore on those speed work sessions is they go in a really light shoe, especially for the Achilles when they're not ready for it. But she was fine in that respect. She was just going too hard too early and doing too much. So we eased that session, and then in 3 weeks' time, we said, okay, let's do the full amount of reps. So let's do the 8 reps. Still do it with the person who's a bit slower than you, and then each week you can go, as long as the pain's okay, just a touch faster. Like you might work the alternate rep just a little bit quicker, like 1 second quicker than you have been doing, or 2 seconds quicker than you have been doing. I saw her in 3 weeks, and she was fine. And now I'm still seeing her, and she's able to do that speed workout just fine, back to normal, and she's got good pain after it. With hills, we've added them into the long run just so they're less intense and they're not as quick, and she's pulling up just fine from them, so good pain. So that's a clear example where we've modified training, and by modifying training, we haven't stopped training, we haven't started resting, we didn't cross-train, we just down-regulated training, modified it, and then slowly brought it back in, but 1 parameter at a time, just slowly. In terms of her goals were just to run pain-free and be able to do those sessions, so we had plenty of time to do this. So as you could tell, I was doing it sort of in 3-week blocks just to allow for tissue change and some adaptation between changes in load. So we had time to work with, but you kind of need time to work with Achilles. You can't rush Achilles. All right, the last example, and I want to go over this example because it illustrates just a few pointers that I wanted to go over about cross-training, and it also illustrates just a few pointers about pains that we just have to rest for. So a few of those pains, they're bone pain, and they're also angry tendon pain. So sometimes we have tendons that aren't like the lady before, but they're early days, and you can't walk throughout the day, you feel it throughout the day. It just makes you limp, and it aches constantly, even when you're driving the car or at night. So these kind of pains, you have to take a bit of time off. You can't run through. Now, how do you work out if it's, say, bone pain? Well, bone pain is quite hard to pick up, and on average, it's not diagnosed till about 3 months after the fact. So with bone pain, often it starts out as good pain, so it's quite easily missed. And then after about 2 to 3 months, it starts more mimicking that bad pain scenario where the pain's achy at night. It's getting worse with runs. So that's probably the biggest indicator. If your pain's not warming up, then you're probably highly suspicious of maybe potentially a bit of bone pain, because normally inflammation and soft tissue irritation warms up with exercise and heat and running. So yeah, if you're suspecting bone pain, then I'd recommend going to a health professional to get a proper diagnosis to clear that, or to see if it is, because you're going to need a bit of a period of rest. And 3 of those high risk areas of getting bone pain, sorry, I'm about to sneeze, the navicular, the anterior cortex of the shin, so the tibia, and the neck of the femur. So we'll be getting it right up in your hip, or at the front of your shin, or in the instep of your foot. Sorry. They're the type of pain. So if you're starting to get mimic bad pain in those 3 areas, then I'd get it looked at straight away, because they're high risk stress fractures, as in they take time to heal, and you don't want to be running through them because they're slow healers. So for those types of bone pain, really be cautious and get a scan straight away, or see a health professional. With the angry tendon pain, so the angry Achilles, or the angry patellar tendon, or the angry glute med, or hamstring tendon, or plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendon, when you first get them, there's going to be a period of deloading, and you need to calm down, because if you just try to run through them, they just don't get better. So you often need to deload them for a few weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, and you might be cross training in that time. Meanwhile, you're doing some strength though, because eventually they do like exercise. They get better with exercise. They don't get better with rest completely, but it's just that initial phase. Now, with cross training, what I wanted to mention was I often see people trying to substitute for not running with about 5 hours a day of cross training. Now, this isn't good either, because you've got to appreciate that you need some kind of energy to heal. If you're doing 5 hours of exercise throughout the day, then you're really probably slowing healing down. And the other thing is, often people go through the motions a little bit with cross training. They just jump on the bike and they just sort of meaninglessly pedal quite slowly, and don't feel like they get much out of it. But what I'd suggest is go, okay, what's your goal? Okay, it's a park run. I'm a 25-minute park runner. What sessions do you normally do on a Tuesday, Thursday to try to get better at that? I normally do a mono fartlek, where I go fast, slow for 20 minutes, and I really work it. Well, I would mimic that in the pool, swimming, or deep water running, or on the bike, or on the elliptical machine. Whatever cross-training device you can do, and you're not getting any worse after, then that's fine as well. So make the training session specific, but also if you're worried about whether you should be cross-training or not, then just monitor your pain during, after, and the next day. And if it's no worse, then that cross-training is absolutely fine. So use pain as a guide. And then another aspect that I wanted to go over bad pain was, okay, so you got bad pain and you give it 7 days where you don't run, and you might do a bit of cross training, or you might do complete rest. And then in 7 days, you do a few of those tests again. So you walk for 30 minutes throughout the day and you don't feel the pain suddenly. You get through the day and you're hardly noticing the pain. It's like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. You do all those tests that I went through in the last video, and you tick them off and it's fine. Then you can start running again. So with that, you've got to realize, okay, how often do I normally run, and what's my easy run that I find quite easy? And if you only had 1 or 2 weeks off, then you can sort of go, do that easy run, or do 2/3 of that easy run and go really slow on a flat surface, and just monitor your pain during, immediately after, or the next day. And if it's no worse, then you can slowly, 1 parameter at a time, just get jogging again. Now, sometimes you do that every second day the first week, and then you might do it 2 out of 3 days the second week. And in that third week, you might sort of add a very light session if things are going well. But the key is to monitor pain during. Get your duration up first. Get your frequency up first of easy running. And then slowly add in sessions after. So That's if your bad pain starts to change. If your bad pain's not changing, then I'd really recommend seeing a health professional so you can get a diagnosis and you can get a bit of a plan of attack. All right, so they're the things to think about. Sorry for the long-winded video, but I hope this helps.